Hello, we should be live right now. Good day to everybody. Yeah, kind of strange. We haven't done this in a while, but welcome back to episode 44 of the Jaded Talk. Today we're going to speak about Balance Point, finally. I've been done with Balance Point for a while, so don't worry. I didn't take that long for this book. I'm taking a while for the next one, so that's the reason. Yeah, once again joined by Pico and Noah. I'm glad to have you guys with me again. And yeah, Balance Point. I guess let's just start with it. What did you guys think of the book?
It's probably the most. It's a book in the NJO series.
I could see that. Yeah, I
think it's overrated.
It's definitely overhated by far, but like it's good. I don't hate it. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, I think I've heard more negative things about the book than I feel are justified. Kind of. It's like, yeah, I also think it's overhated, probably, or like over ignored. Maybe I don't even think it's that hated. I'm not sure though. But yeah, I think it was a solid book. I wouldn't complain a lot about this, but no, I think I like this pretty much as well. Probably though, I think this was my second to last favorite. I think my least favorite so far was Vector Prime, probably, and then Balance Point. I think a bit. I like this one a bit better, I think, than Vector Prime. But yeah, no, still pretty enjoyable, I have to say. So let's do the classic. The cover. We have Han and Leia. These characters are supposedly married. That's cool. That kind of becomes a thing again in this book, so that's nice.
There is a little attempt at aging them up.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, how old is Han supposed to be at this point? Isn't like in his 40s already? Or...
Definitely late 50s, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he was. What was he? He was 30 in A New Hope. So, oh yeah, I mean, a lot of time has passed, and we have a guy in the middle. I assume, I would think that's Jason. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, makes sense because this whole visual thingy with the cracks everywhere here, I guess that's kind of a
shatter point.
I guess that's kind of a reference to the vision that he's having. Maybe, I don't know, but I would assume that this is Jason. X-Wings or XJ-Wings, I don't know, and the planet that they're on, you basically are not able to really tell. I guess it would be Duro or Duros, whatever. I don't know what. I think Duro was the planet, right? Yeah, and Duros were the people. I would assume that that's the. So, yeah, Balance Point. I have unfortunately no idea what the vocabulary itself really means. So I think it also refers to the vision that he has, right? To the vision that Jason has.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, no, this cover is... It still has this thing of NJO covers where it seems like things are just kind of randomly cluttered together, and it looks weird because it's like a bunch of things at once. So, but I think like the faces look really nice. I kind of dig the color scheme too.
There is some symmetry to it, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Oh, there's like,
because it's like Leia and Han, I guess, are split. Maybe this is a relic from when it was supposed to be longer, the quote unquote split.
Which
I guess
I would say thankfully didn't happen, but
that was supposed to be part of Nightfall, and then when Nightfall got canceled, it got pushed into here, and I guess
that might be
because Nightfall was after this, right? So
was it supposed to be? Yeah, I think so, right? Right. I think that's on the book as well. Nightfall 1 Jedi Storm. Nightfall Trilogy. It should probably say Nightfall was gonna... Doesn't say 26 ABY is supposed to be preceded by Balance Point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was supposed to come afterwards. Yeah, interesting. Okay, and then let's just have a quick look at the obviously, once again, Superior cover, just the Nagano cover. And that's pretty cool. So you still have Han, you have Leia, you even have a bunch of Duros here. Luke, I guess that would be Anakin.
Mhm.
That's still Jason. We have Mara Jade here, looking exactly as I would imagine Nagano to draw her. So really nice.
Based. Very based.
Yeah. And we have what I assume is Jaina here in a Bacta tank.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this cover once again has a much more going for it. It's much more detailed and better composed, let's say. Yeah. So there you go. I guess let's just start with the book then. We have a prologue first. We start with Jaina, and she experiences something which I imagine to be like pretty realistic, which is her excitement of joining the Rogue Squadron has kind of died down already. And the fact that she lacks a lot of sleep, that she has seen quite a bit of death already, and that all the fights in the middle of the night have kind of caused that. Like, reality has sort of caught up to her, that joining Rogue Squadron isn't just this fairy tale dream that she had, but it's a harsh reality. And she's
like soldiers in World War One.
Yeah, she pretty quickly
adventure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of the promise of we're going on a great adventure, and it's gonna be over in a few weeks, and then
over by Christmas.
Yeah, and it didn't take long for her to be like pretty numbed by all the war stuff. So yeah, she also pointed out something that I thought was kind of interesting, which is they have got the correct tactics to take out every Vong enemy that they see, but there's just so many of them that they have no chance, like individually. And we've seen that throughout the books up until this point, that every time the Vong present some kind of new threat, a new weapon, let's say, or a new tactic, the New Republic actually finds a solution to it relatively quickly. It's just, as Jaina says, there are so many of the Vong that even with superior tactics, what are you supposed to do if you're just being overrun? And currently she is guarding the escort of a refugee convoy, and she almost gets herself killed, but she just loses consciousness, so a battle occurred. Chapter 1 now. So, once again, we are experiencing revolutionary storytelling in Star Wars, because one story, strange concept, it influences the next one. Like, the one that precedes this book kind of has like an influence on this book. So Han is on Dura with Jason, and he's in charge of a refugee settlement, and he has to reprimand a Rin because they are flying through restricted areas where they're not supposed to go. And while they do not trust Zelkor, so the refugee corporation, or those guys up there, quote unquote, as they called them, they do trust Han, because Han was a big savior of them, and that means a lot to them, which is really nice. And it's really sweet, and it gives Han a very like human focused, or let's say life focused task that isn't, first of all, that isn't something he would have been able to do during Agents of Chaos. Like, he was in a very different mindset, and now he is kind of involved, and he's able to have a job that forces him to empathize, Jesus Christ, with other people. And that's a really nice development of Han, I think. And arguably one of the few real character developments that Han goes through. Like, there aren't that many of them, which isn't even that bad necessarily.
It's basically been the past 3 books.
Yeah. And
character progression, not character development, I think.
Yeah,
no. there is a difference.
No, fair enough. Yeah, you're right. But I think this is a pretty, even though maybe like it's not the most exciting thing to read, it's still meaningful that you get to see Han actually grow into something new, and that's really nice. Hello, we're doing fine. Hope you're as well. Jason is helpful to him because he has a lot of empathy and he can kind of intuitively judge situations. Whereas Han is very he is oriented towards finding solutions and doesn't really listen to everybody and everybody's position when they are trying to argue their point. It's just kind of like, okay, we have a problem, we need to fix this. And Jason's much more like people friendly, you would say. And yeah, I like Jason's perspective. He wants to let the two Rin beat each other up to just let their frustrations out of the system. So the Rin are kind of infighting. And he's like, okay, then do what you feel like you need to do and just get it out. Which was kind of funny. Other than Han, Han wants to stop them because he's like, well, this is a problem. I need to fix this problem. And Jason's like, nope, they are bottling it up. Just let them do what they need to do right now, which is kind of funny, actually. This stream is indeed back. Yeah, we've been on a long pause.
Life's got in the way. We didn't die.
Summertime was just very exciting and very busy, so we kind of didn't have a lot of time, and I also didn't have much time reading, and also not a lot of desire most of the time, I have to say. Yeah, maybe I don't know if it's fair to say that maybe even Denning has a bit of shame and would be like, am I really gonna write incest? It's like, nah, come on. That even for me, that's like a new low. I don't know. Because yeah, talk about screwing with the Star Wars universe. Yeah.
Talk about screwing.
Talk about screwing, yeah. Oof, yeah. And yeah, so then something happens to Jaina. We kind of felt that from the prologue already, which Jason can feel since, quote, they've been connected in the Force before they were born and always knew when the other was hurt, which is really nice. It tells you, that this bond is very special and it logically can't be broken, really, right? Yeah. Exactly. But now Jason he experiences a vision. The vision is of Luke. Luke is dressed in all white and he's fighting a Vong. He gets a lightsaber thrown to him. But Jason is angry and afraid, so he has no control over the Force and can't grab the lightsaber. And it in the vision it dooms him to not be able to fight. And that's kind of just what he has now. And he constantly hears Luke saying, be unwavering, Jason. And he thinks that the Vong can't be stopped because it's there's a spiritual battle going on. And if one of the Jedi fall to the dark, they'd certainly have no chance of beating the Vong again, because the darkness that's coming from the Vong is already overwhelming them. And if their own light side were to now shift more towards the dark as well, it would be over. Exactly. And I also believe that Luke, kind of speaking about being unwavering, isn't really about the physical aspect. Obviously it's about the spiritual aspect too, because Jason thought that he could wipe them all out with his anger, in the vision, but he failed to grab the lightsaber because of it. So the fact that he wasn't unwavering spiritually caused him to not be able to get the weapon. So I guess that's supposed to kind of be a foreshadowing of where the conflict could go, or could maybe go in an alternate version if Jason were to, at some point, make a different choice. I don't know. I will see. And yeah, in general, just the scene here was really nice. He doesn't tell Han about the vision because he kind of confused Han enough with his emotional distress that he's going through and his desire not to participate in any rescue or research missions anymore. And Jason recognizes that the Force doesn't leave him alone. He kind of wants to cut himself off, but the Force won't let him because it's his destiny. But he won't tell anyone about it before he's sure what he's supposed to do. because he once almost doomed himself by following a vision, which is very nicely done. Yeah, Jason kind of seems to be the guy that wouldn't follow up on visions anymore. At least not like, making brash decisions about it. That's very, very nice of Jason. I like that character aspect of him. I hope it gets explored.
Jason's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he like thinks before he does something. He's like, I don't know. This vision is telling me something, but I can't really be sure. I'm just gonna chill and figure out what it means.
That's something he even semi does in Young Jedi Knights. So there's a
connection there. You could say.
there's a tiny compliment, Kevin. You did something, I guess.
Yeah, you figured out that running headfirst into a wall is kind of not that good most of the times.
Most of the time. Still does a couple times in that series, but
yeah, of course, Yeah, so chapter 2. Oh yeah, quote. There's a quote which I thought like, okay, Kathy Tyers, I guess you are a weirdo as well. Quote, at the end of the administration house, there was a young, well-formed Rin female. I'm like, I don't want to know what a well-formed Rin female even looks like, but thanks, Kathy. But
if you're not horny, you're not a Star Wars writer, really.
Yeah, that's fair, probably. I mean, you gotta have something to distract you while you're writing for Star Wars. I sympathize. And yeah, so apparently we learned that now during Han's period of grief, he drank so much that he said horrible things to Leia that could never get repeated and could hardly be forgiven. We don't know what he said. We just know that he said it. I don't know if he said serves you right.
Alderaan deserves it.
Maybe he revisited that story arc from Young Jedi Knights and gifted her the entire planet, then used the center point station to put it in front of Coruscant or something. That would have been cool. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what he said ultimately, so it's hard to judge. But I'm like, I don't like that. That's where we're at right now. But yeah, not a big fan. I do like how Han asks Jason why he isn't using the Force and encouraged to share it with him, even though he usually has no real perspective on esoteric stuff and usually no interest either. It's been very clear that he doesn't really care about the Force all that much because, I mean, how could he possibly understand it really? But it's clear now that the interest is there because it's his family, and that's really nice. It's also a reflection of Han's, growth. And apparently on Corellia, Thraken gets celebrated as a hero, and now we get to see why. I haven't changed.
Is this the reason you think this book is overhated?
That it's one of the reasons. Yeah, it's like, okay, the people of Corellia, as always, are right, and once again today, all of us are Thraken. So, hail our galactic hero, Thraken's also.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Corellia doesn't disappoint. They do what they gotta do. And yeah, Leia, meanwhile, is working tirelessly with a bunch of scientists who are helping her to make Duro fertile and livable again, since it's now a refugee camp and we need to do something with the planet. And apparently different settlements and different scientists constantly fight with each other for funding and resources, which I guess would make sense. I mean, doesn't sound like resources are all that plenty during the Long War. So yeah, sure. And as 3PO expresses concern and gratitude for Han helping the droids on Ruan, Leia immediately is kind of amused and wishes he is here so she could tease him about it, like the fact that he specifically was the one to help droids, which is a nice touch also. It also shows you, okay, yeah, Leia obviously is still very much in love with Han. That hasn't changed. It's just the situation we're in right now where they're separated. But yeah, that was nice.
It's taken a toll. They're not actually separating. It's just everything going on at once.
Exactly. it's not like it's also not like they made a decision. I don't feel like being in this relationship specifically anymore. It's just it's other circumstances making them do things that effectively separate them for now. Yeah. And she thinks about how much she will take care of him and how she needs him, but at least thinks that what he did for the Rin shows that he's getting better already. Like the fact that he's doing the good things, the right things, is showing her that he just kind of needed that moment for him, and it's clear that he still cares, obviously. She will simply wait for him to return to her, which I think is a very nice conclusion to this whole little drama thing that went on. It's like, okay, yeah, it is what it is now. And yeah, and I think this is coalescing of them kind of resolving their issues in this book. That's what I thought at the time when I was reading that chapter. The refugee focus would kind of, I think, make it good because it's a matter that's kind of important to both of them. And both of them are on Duro, obviously. They just don't know that the other is on Duro. And I was like, any further waiting about resolving that conflict, I feel like would have been too much. Because, yeah, I think you would have to find realistic reasons why they can't just kind of reunite, even though Han, that's the thing that he wanted to do. So yeah. Chapter 3. Sadong La, he finds it ironic that some in the New Republic saw Nomenor as a fallen hero for what he did on Romamul. It's like, it's funny how I can, whenever you read a book or even when you play a game and you kind of understand the villain, that's usually a bad sign. It's like, no, that I don't feel like I'm supposed to feel this way.
When you listen to the villain and he starts making sense.
Exactly. And Sadong La is like, wait, why are people in the New Republic celebrating Nomenor for Romamul? That's he almost killed their princess and just destroyed, he slaughtered the entire planet. It's so funny. It's like, yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's a shit factor. What can I say? And yeah, Nomenor, he knows about more refugees being moved to Duro, as they will be used for the next sacrifice that they want to make in order to move towards Coruscant. And yeah, I did wonder at that point. That kind of still intrigues me, since it's just so easy for the Vong to infiltrate the New Republic right now because the New Republic sucks. How they ever will be able to actually move beyond that and beat the Vong. I am kind of intrigued about that. What is it about the good guys that's gonna turn the tide of the war? It's actually really interesting to me. Chapter 4. We have another quote about the biggest hero of the galaxy. Quote, Thraken will probably drive out all Salonians and Drell, declare Corellia a human zone, and exclude us if we let him continue. So, Anakin, it was Anakin speaking about this, so I was like, you're not at fault for anything that's happened here. But the New Republic has shown it has no authority to say anything in regards to Corellia. It's still amusing to me. We're not going to allow you to arm yourselves, but we're also not going to defend you. You're just going to be there as a fucking massive flesh shield, human bait, but in the form of an entire system. Then there's nothing you can do about it without us actually just declaring war on you or something. That's yeah, New Republic has lost the moral high ground a long, long time ago. So what can you say? Oh yeah, Marcha, that character from the Corellian trilogy, she was apparently yeeted out of her seat as governor.
Oh no.
Corellia doesn't disappoint. It's yeah, fuck out of here. You're fucking useless. Which is a fair assessment to make. I mean, if you kind of just escape genocide by stupidity, what are you supposed to think about your politics?
I'm reading through your notes of this chapter. I completely understand why you like this book. Okay, never mind. The next one is Bothawi is now under threat. Lovely. Mara had enough for Kipteron.
Exactly, yeah. But, Mara has so many. I think I remember Mara saying so many things about Kip Duran. It might have also been in the beginning of Conquest too, but yeah, no, that was. It certainly helped me liking this book much more than I feel others do. Yeah. Oh, apparently Botha Wui is now under threat. Um, yeah. I mean, this place kind of had it coming. It's one of the like Star Wars kind of equivalents to Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's like, okay, bye bye. I do want to see Failure cry, kind of like just see him realize that he just lost. I wonder if he will be written so well at some point that I could feel sympathy for him. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Oh yeah. Quote exactly. Yeah. Mara has had enough of Kip Duran. It's like, yeah, Mara. I understand. That's the usual development. But what can we say? It's been a few years since the JAT, and he's still around. So yeah, whatever. Oh yeah. Apparently, Anakin is a celebrity now, with random people just offering him food, and also Twi'leks apparently wanting to fuck him, which is, I guess, yeah, that's what happens if you press the genocide button. Anakin should really be thankful towards his uncle. He made him into a Giga Chat in front of the entire universe, and he should really, be thankful for that. Mara briefly thinks about how good fate meant it with her, how she knows that she makes Luke happy, and how well they work together, and how they communicate without saying anything about 100 times a day apparently, and how how his love lessened her bitterness over the years, which is really sweet. I mean, let's be honest, like Mara was never she was angry, but she wasn't like a classic dark side character ever, really. I feel like I don't think that's what was ever implied about her character. So her kind of letting go over that just natural anger that she has is a nice development as well. And yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody ever thinking that Mara Jade is a Sith Lord. Let's see if that ever comes back to bite me. So Luke is worried about a bigger rift growing between Jason and Anakin, since Anakin blames himself kind of for his decision, and therefore, of course, wishes that he wouldn't have listened to Jason in the previous book, which kind of makes sense. It's like, you speaking to me kind of put us into the position we're in right now as well. I mean, it was still Anakin's decision at the end, but obviously what Jason told him influenced him. So it's kind of an interesting conflict, at least a little conflict. Yeah. Oh yeah, we have the scene that I kind of thought was very amusing. It was speaking about Gariel's daughter, and it said, quote, her mother died a few years ago during another center point crisis. That was the quote speaking about Gariel. It's just like, this is the legacy of the Corellian trilogy. Imagine like you're thinking about this book and being like, yeah, my contribution was in one book. Later on, it was said the other center point crisis. That was my book. Oh well, what can I say?
It was from the author that created the character.
Yeah, true. That is true. So, yeah, it's just amusing to me.
You just wait until Legacy of the Force when we get another center point crisis.
Oh man, if Thraken won in Legacy of the Force, I could see it being
that would have been amazing.
A book series that I would actually like. I think I would really like it, despite everything. Yeah. So the two of them, Luke and Mara, they investigate a suspected Vong that a Jedi found apparently in a bar on Coruscant, and they do indeed find one. I do like how Mara said that she wanted Anakin to come along because of kind of how bad he feels still, and he needs a bit of action to go out there and separate his mind from the past events. So that's really nice. I'm kind of sold on the like aunt nephew dynamic that Anakin and Mara have going on. It's really nice. So, chapter 5, we once again have the mention that Bothawu is under threat, slowly but surely. Which, yeah. And yeah, Mara and Anakin, they follow their suspect after Mara kind of pretended to be dumb and she like scouted ahead. They fight him, and we can see that with Silgald's help, Mara can actually use her white blood cells, which is still infused with the tears of Virgia from the previous book, to defend herself from the venom of the amphistaff of the Vong, which is really nice. And that's like, that's a pretty useful technique, but once again, a force technique, or like a general one that I feel isn't too overpowered. It's like not making her be invincible. It's just kind of helping with your system, and that seems to me a logical thing that the Jedi would be able to manipulate. So I think that's pretty useful. Yeah, of course we always need somebody with questionable tastes in our stream.
Well, this is his origin book, so he's got to be here.
Oh, this is the origin.
This is the origin, yeah.
Reminder: this guy got to write official Star Wars material later on.
Yeah, that title means nothing.
What, official?
Like being somebody that got to write for Star Wars. It's like, yeah,
He got to co-write the Essential Guide to Warfare.
Yeah,
he made another Vergier retcon.
I do have the Essential Guide to Warfare next to me, so I don't know what that says about me. It's sad.
I know that book has a lot of dumb things in it. Isn't that the one that retcons the amount of Vong after this series?
I think so.
Wasn't the Essential Guide to Warfare where... Oh, I don't know what it was, where Ahsoka has like a friend or somebody that...
Yes. In the Guide to Warfare, there's a letter that Ahsoka wrote to Scout from Yoda Dark Rendezvous.
Oh, yeah, it was the... Jesus Christ.
They are best friends.
Yeah, totally, yeah. You could really tell from Yoda Dark Rendezvous how much Scout loves Ahsoka as a friend. So on the nose. Yeah, there you go. Anakin has a stun net, whatever you want to call it, with him, and Mara knocks the Vong unconscious. So now we might see like a bit of progress about what the people of the universe understand about the Vong biology, which would be interesting. So that was just something I noticed. Chapter 6. Yeah, so the female Vong they found is examined, so the New Republic can find more info on the Vong, and she just cuts her restraints and tries to kill herself. So yeah, okay. And also Calendar, that other character from... Yeah, it was Corellian Trilogy, right? Has been demoted because she told people incorrect information about Corellia, which is just kind of funny to me. Like, okay, yeah. The correct people are starting to suffer. That's always a good sign in a story. It means that we're getting towards a happy ending, slowly but surely. And yeah, Mara's like really irritated, but Luke has a pretty easy time trying to calm her down. And I like how Mara like yawns and Luke pretends that he doesn't notice, and she knows that he does. Like, he kind of wants to respect the fact that she's obviously tired, but he pretends that he doesn't notice. And she knows that he noticed and is trying to hide the fact. So she is the one that suggests they both go to sleep, which was kind of funny. And yeah, then the two of them have a pretty nice conversation about what exactly they're trying to preserve here. What are they trying to defend? Since everybody's kind of living in fear, and being in constant fear is not really all that much better than just being a slave with corals all over your body. And she says they're only trying to help people survive, but survival kind of is not everything. Interesting thought process here. It's like, yeah, if you're constantly worried worried about the next invasion and when it's going to happen, and it's just a matter of time. Is it that much better? I mean, maybe slightly, but it doesn't feel meaningful enough, I think. So I thought, okay, that maybe this is also gonna that analysis is gonna maybe be progressed a bit more later on, like what exactly are we trying to save here and how are we gonna do it? Chapter 7, Han and Jason reunite with Jaina now. She absolutely doesn't want to be a burden, which she feels like she is. She's kind of annoyed when Jason feels how like standing next to her is like the earth tremoring. I guess she's just so so shaken up and not satisfied with the position she's in right now. And I guess she doesn't appreciate the fact that he can notice that. We also learn that the planet Feline has fallen to the Vong. Yeah, Rebozo. Another species. I'm like, yep, bye-bye.
I feel like you had a checklist for this book.
Yeah. It's like, man, it's perfect. Like the right people are suffering, the right people are being celebrated, the right
Isn't
people
it great how the series wipes out all the species you hate?
I
This game's written for you.
Yeah, I always think it's like every time it happens, it gets more and more amusing because I know I'm supposed to feel more and more hopeless about the situation of the New Republic. Like, oh no, God, are these people, are the Bothans gonna survive? Are like they gonna survive? It's like, yeah, no, bye bye. Like, just restart the universe. Just make a big day one pitch about the entire people of the universe. Delete everybody. I don't like. Bye bye. And yeah, she also wants Han and Jason to go out there and fight since they are needed, and they're both not fighting at the moment. But they are defended by a Rin for, and he tells her how they're helping innocents instead, which is also meaningful, of course. She understands it, and it makes sense for her to be like, hey, you guys are really, really skilled. Your skills are kind of wasted here because, I mean, it's wartime. We need warriors, but yeah, it's nice for other people also to acknowledge that they're not just twiddling thumbs and doing nothing. They are doing something useful. Yeah, she wants Jason to push her into a healing trance since she's never that far into the trance without his help. And he's kind of briefly resisting doing it because he doesn't want to use the Force. Really, that's still his principle, kind of that he decided on now. She understands that, but tells him that she needs him now, and she needs him to do that. And he understands and relents, so he helps her. Jason thinks how he could be a great healer, but that being good at something doesn't necessarily mean that it's your destiny to be that thing. And while others usually praise his variety of skills, he's kind of annoyed by it because they usually don't have to make the decisions that he has to do either. Like, sure, if you have a lot of skills, it of course it's going to be useful, but it means that you're inevitably going to have to make decisions about those skills and how you use them. And others may be jealous of the fact that he has a lot of skills, but it also means they get to make easier decisions because it's maybe more straightforward what their role in the universe is. And for Jason, it's been very obvious that he doesn't really know what his purpose is supposed to be. And that's good, and it's logical that he feels that way. Jaina gets to cut the line for breakfast, like where they're staying at, because the cook wants to honor her and the rogues. And while she wants to refuse that honor, Jason stops her and tells her to just accept it, since these people don't really have a lot to offer her otherwise, and they feel like they need to offer them something because they're fighting for them, which also makes a lot of sense. It makes sense that Jaina would be humble about this, and Jason being like, they kind of need this quote-unquote compensation towards you because they can't give you anything otherwise. And yeah, contact with Leia. where they're staying at is impossible since there is no comm cable between the cities that works, and they haven't got a good enough antenna from Selco, which, yeah, okay. And I already wondered, is that going to influence something? I don't know. Chapter 8. Randa tells Jason about Kip stopping an attack on Kubindi long enough for the Cubas to escape. And Jason, who himself is not a big fan of Kip, points out that he killed millions, which is incorrect, Jason. He killed billions. Please get your facts right. But the spirit of your criticism is correct. And yeah, when Randa points out that it was a while ago and he was young when he did it, Jason counters that he's young himself and is still annoyed by the fact what he did. It's like, yeah, I don't feel the desire to mindlessly murder people, so it's not a young people thing. Yeah, and I said,
them kids.
Those kids, yeah. It's almost like the desire to be a butcher is not tied to age. Strange. Yeah, Randa likes that they take action and dreams of like pirates flying around and doing the same thing as Kip does, with Jason joining him, and he is not so pleased with the idea and doesn't want to do that. And yeah, we learned that the Duros stole some supplies that they were supposed to get to the settlement 32. So they go to the other city, which is called Gateway, to steal some for themselves. Meanwhile, Nomenor is testing a weapon to destroy the domes, the protected homes of the Duros. And Savong La is not in favor of his motivation, kind of to steal other people's glory. But he lets him proceed. He lets him do his thing. So once again, we have that kind of conflict there where we don't really know what people's, like, what the Vongs deal with Nomenor is. Like, why are they so strange about him? Why are they so wary of him? It seems obvious that Nomenor is very ambitious, and he has some history about him that I assume we will learn that explains why the Vong feel that strangely about him, or at least in this case, Savong La. So that's still interesting to see, like, conflict within the villains. It also makes them less one-dimensional, so I always appreciate that. He also seems annoyed with the priests, so Savong La does, who can't decide whether the Jedi are too horrible to be sacrificed or not, and he's just like a sitting duck, more or less. It's really cool to see, once again, more stuff about the Vong. That's been a pretty consistent thing where we always get to have more things discussed here. Chapter 9. So Mara understands how Corellia, which was supposed to be a trap for the Vong, now feels like it was about to be backstabbed, which it makes sense that Mara understands that, because that's the truth. It was exactly, that was the plan. It just happened to turn out a different way, but it absolutely would have happened if the Vong made different decisions. So yeah. If Corellia never wants to speak to anybody from the New Republic again, who could realistically hate them for that? Nobody, really. And yeah, Luke and Mara, they are at an intelligence meeting and council meeting, and other councilmen are crying about the Jedi again, like the usual stuff, because Kip is doing his thing, and Corran is probably, according to them at least, a vigilante, and vigilante behavior is not liked. But also the others aren't doing anything, which is also not good enough. So, and also those that are doing anything are only helping certain kinds of people. So we once again have them crying about, like, racism. Kip and Corran do too much, but Luke doesn't do enough. So we're like, yeah, it's the new, like, last days of the Roman Empire, it's the New Republic preparing for its
They're sounding like they only have 3 books left. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah, something about them doesn't seem very sustainable. And yeah, Luke points out that they would do a better job if they weren't persecuted by their own faction while trying to organize themselves better, which you could kind of argue is like perhaps kind of a fair thing to point out. It's like, yeah, if you guys didn't try to like attack us, we could do something. Yeah, Luke also points out that he did what he could in curbing the enthusiasm of his more like zealous Jedi, but having the freedom to decide also means having the freedom to make the incorrect decision. And he adds that the New Republic also had problems like this, like when it decided to defend some planets in favor of others, which is correct. He also says that the Jedi are accountable to the New Republic as long as it stands for freedom and justice, which is a very nice, subtle threat that as long as you're not that anymore, we're not gonna be accountable to you. Very good. I mean, that's kind of one of the problems that the prequel Jedi had, that they were inseparable from the government. Like, no, they kind of shouldn't be. And yeah, I like that Luke has Jedi spies on Duro that Numenor doesn't seem to know about.
Wait. Jedi spice.
Not the drugs. The
Okay, because I was thinking of Fate of the Jedi, where the Sith claim that Luke is the leader of a drug cartel.
Wasn't that when you said that Crate had an Alex Jones podcast?
No, it wasn't Crate. Crate was on vacation on Coruscant. He was at the airport, and he also watched that Alex Jones Sith podcast.
Imagine like the New Republic just, or whatever the faction is going to be called in Fate of the Jedi, like just having their sworn to death enemies publish like broadcasts all over their planet, like their main planet, as though that's a normal thing to happen. Apparently it is, I guess.
Yep.
But yeah. And yeah, apparently some orbital cities of the Jura, like Urdorf or Erdorf, I don't know, that was the name, get modified. So if necessary, it is able to leave Duro. So you're already kind of wondering, what are you guys up to? Like, you're kind of already planning your escape, I guess. And yeah, also to a Jedi called Thrini, who is the student of a Jedi called Tresina, went missing while finding out that the Duros were building those, were rebuilding those orbital cities. So that's kind of their point now, is to find out what happened to her, where she is. And yeah, Mara now feels that a part of Luke is within her and her lower belly because she's pregnant, obviously. And she's worried and even wonders briefly whether to get rid of it, only to like immediately dismiss the thought and feeling very protective about her baby. And Luke is very happy and she's protective too, which she almost feels kind of overwhelmed by. And she's also surprised with how quickly she imagines having a baby, like with a bit of her and a bit of Luke and all of that, but also him being his own person. And that's a just really nice, believable scene about parents becoming parents for the first time. I really like that scene. And yeah, while she's worried about him being born during the wrong time, during wartime, Luke says that there's always danger in every place at every time. And she's kind of overwhelmed by his belief in like the good and the light. But yeah, he's like, it's never going to be the right time to have a baby. It's always going to be danger. Like, look, we can do this, basically. And that was awesome. And yeah, since she is getting protective and she still needs to come along with him, he doesn't want to leave her alone either. He's like, he probably doesn't want her to actually come with him. But he's like, I also don't want to leave you alone. There's other tacticians that I can leave on Coruscant. I don't necessarily need you here. So Luke and Mara will go together, and they will take Anakin to go to Duro and look for both their family and also for the missing Jedi student Thrini. And yeah, this was just a fantastic chapter. I'm glad I got to read this. And finally, it feels like a long time coming that I get to see all of this. And yeah, That's really cool. Chapter 10. So Leia's getting annoyed since the scientists that she has to work with all have plans that seem to be reliant on the others not being able to progress their plans, and they're constantly fighting because of it. Like their plans always interfere with each other, which I guess that's a bunch of useless scientists in the New Republic. That's what they're going to do for you. And yeah, Han has successfully stolen the resources from her without knowing that it's from her, of course. And she wonders if Salcor can actually recruit Lando and Tendra to administrate 32 instead. I guess she doesn't feel like it. I was like, oh, Tendra. Remember that character? That character existed. I remember that name.
I think the Lucasfilm finally figured out people like the character, so they're like, let's just make them married, I guess.
So yeah, okay, she's here. Woo, yeah, here you got it.
Because they weren't actually like gonna be officially married until they saw people like that on the forums, and then they were like, let's just.
Oh, they saw another Joe Bongiorno post.
It's very strange. Like, I mean, Tendra spent an entire book in a spaceship going from her home planet to Corellia. It was really bizarre.
And then she had like a name drop in Vision of the Future, and then nothing else.
Oh yeah, that happened. How much younger is Tendra than Lando?
I think she's 20 years younger.
I looked it up. Lando was born in 31 BBY, and Tendra was born in 14 BBY.
So 17 years. Yeah, it's Lando. It's kind of what you would expect from Lando, I guess. But yeah, exactly. And Nominor is pretending apparently to serve some goddess, like the Vong are, of course, they have their own strange religions, and he himself doesn't actually believe in anything like Savong La, for example, does. He's basically only trying to get a raise. Like Nominor is just he just has the perfect boomer mindset. He just doesn't care about anything. He believes in nothing. He just wants more money. It's like, yeah, okay. Like more.
That's objectively wrong. If you read the Corellian trilogy, it makes it very clear that Tendra was meant for him.
Yeah,
you can tell because it says that over and over again.
Yeah, and you can also tell by all the bad writers writing about this and all the good writers not writing about this. It's almost like that means something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah. So he also wants. Nominor wants to see Leia's face as she finds out that he is responsible for Jaina and Jason dying at some point. He is like subtle as a brick about his desires, so it's pretty interesting. And yeah, and Jason Wildenduro, he finds some worms, which I thought are those that Nominor used to build himself like a side tunnel for his office, meaning now they kind of have the means to theoretically find him. They found something related to the Vong. It's just a matter of time. And yeah, Jason and Jaina try to find their mom again, so they try to call somebody, only for Vicky Shesh to catch their call, and she's saying, "Oh yeah, we'll search for her," and it's like, yeah, she's obviously not going to search for her. I said, during Palpatine's reign, women had no actual power, so it's up to you to decide whether you think that being changed was a net positive for the Star Wars universe. It's a question that remains to be answered. And yeah, Jason saw the insincerity in her as she said that she would search for Leia, which reminded him of. Oh yeah, it says it reminded him of the hollows of some other senator, and I did wonder if that was supposed to be a reference to Palpatine, like about his speeches in the Senate, which once again, of course, shows off that he's the most based politician alive. maybe only kind of rivaled by Thraken. But I felt like, I guess this is a reference to Palpatine. I mean, at this time, the prequels were out already, right? So, or at least some of the prequels. So, yeah, it could.
Unless it's a reference to. Hang on. I don't know. It could be a reference to Padme, maybe.
I think what he thought he saw in Vikishesh specifically, that he saw in another Sarata, was the kind of insincerity while speaking.
Mm-hmm. Right. Insincerity. I read that wrong. Okay.
Yeah, so I assumed.
Yes. Okay. Then yeah, probably.
But I also feel it's weird that he wouldn't point out that
would be
the Emperor, because I mean, I guess it's not known to the. Yeah, I guess it would be known. I mean, like
Emperor Palpatine. I'm pretty sure he's known.
Yeah, became Chancellor and then Emperor Palpatine. I mean, it should be public knowledge, so it kind of feels weird if that's a reference to Palpatine that he wouldn't just name him. But yeah, maybe it's just supposed to be a little wink or something. I don't know.
Maybe there's a random prequel book around this time that we're forgetting about.
It could also be, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Chapter 11. Nothing happens really, but Vikishesh is continuing to open the Star Wars equivalent of the gates of Toledo, so she's just letting the Vong do their thing. Savong La gives literally 0 fucks and plans to still annihilate Kuat, even though Vikishesh is helping him, that's pretty base. It's like, no, please do that. Vikishesh is also on the list of the people who can go bye-bye. She's
actually supposed to be there. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true. She's gonna try and sabotage Center Point. Apparently, that's her plan. But she, of course, just wants peace. But Vikishesh is a strange character, and I'm sure her ultimate demise will be very satisfying to read. And yeah, once again, under Palpatine, none of this would have happened. I just want to point it out again. I feel the autistic need to point it out. Chapter 12. So yeah, the worms that Jason found before turned into big moths now that are eating the dome that they're living in from the inside. I mean, that sounds like something the Vong would create. So that kind of answers the whole thing about what these things are. Yeah, and they're of course, if the protective domes above the cities are destroyed, the entire toxic atmosphere of Duro is going to get into settlement 32, which is not so good. I do love how calm and collected Jason manages to stay in this whole crisis, kind of. He's directing people to do helpful tasks until Han and other competent help can arrive and do the bulk of the job. It's nice to see how Jason also manages to convince guards to let people take their pets that they weren't supposed to take here anyway with them now as they're starting to evacuate the city, because he said, quote, "Is it worth to lower the morale instead of just wasting a bit more oxygen and food for that one pet?" Which is that's a pretty adult thing for him to say. It's like, yeah, sure, the pets are kind of a waste of resource, maybe, but is it worth it to think about this at this point? Now, especially that we're facing a very immediate, another very immediate crisis, maybe we'll just take these pets with us. Yeah, Han threatens Randa with a blaster so he doesn't cut the line, which is pretty based. That was cool. And when Randa does cause trouble, Jason, who was given the blaster, then stuns him. It's like he is capable to fight. He just chooses not to do it most of the time, but he, if needed, can still do something. And yeah, when Jaina asks what happened to him not wanting to be aggressive, because of course he used a blaster, he replies that Randa hurt others, and also that Jason didn't use the Force, so in his world is still okay. And Jaina kind of rightfully points out whether the Vong aren't hurting others. Like, aren't they? something that he would protect others from, and whether they shouldn't stop them with all they had. And Jason doesn't really react, so I think he's also slowly realizing that she's kind of right. If that is okay, why wouldn't it be okay to do the same against the Vong? Chapter 13. So, because the Rin, with their thick fur that they have, can't be easily disinfected from the toxic, and therefore eggs of the moths that are eating the dome from inside could also still be in their fur. And they would be moved to gateways to the settlement that they're evacuating towards. They're either supposed to be bathed in some substance that could make them sick, or they would need to have their fur cut down. Other species don't have to be put under this procedure, as they are easier to clean off. Both Jason and Han don't want them to be treated differently, and therefore order like equal treatment for all. The thought was nice, I guess, but I mean, if it's an actual threat, like, okay, you guys might take these eggs with you, we need to do something about it, then there's kind of a point to the different treatment. Like, what are you gonna do if they have fur? They're supposed to do something about it. Yeah, and this is where Han and the twins get to reunite with Leia, actually. Jaina immediately tells her to fix things with Han, which is pretty funny, and it kind of fits this new character that Jaina has developed into, this more like a bit numb to, let's say, I mean, she was numbed down by the war, and now she's like very direct, saying just fix things. Like, there's no reason for things not to be okay anymore, basically. So
we don't have time for this shit. Just
yeah, like, be adults. Like, we're supposed to be the kids, not you. Be adults, do this thing, and now we need to take a look at the bigger picture.
I feel like this works better than what they were thinking about planning. I mean, like, we don't actually know full details of what they were planning for Nightfall and Han
do we
and
have
Leia stuff.
ideas? What was kind of supposed to happen?
I think it's just supposed to go out for like the whole trilogy, but while they were doing the because Nightfall is also where they were going to do the droid stuff, like droids have sentience, etc., etc.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is kind of the
because it also uses Jaina's character progression to further that.
Yeah,
kind of like that.
Yeah, no, I guess it kind of fits well here to show that Jaina has kind of changed already because of her being in Rogue Squadron. And no, yeah, at this point, the Han Leia, like the Han Leia conflict went on enough for it to still be believable. And I think if they are now still like, they're still physically like close to each other, like they can talk to each other, but they haven't actually fixed things. I'm like, well, what's their reasoning for not fixing things now? Like,
I feel like if they extended it, it would actually just be divorced at that point.
Yeah,
that because you're not just extending books, you're extending the timeline. Like, we're already like 4 months of this.
It's been quite a while, yeah. So I don't know, man. You can only do that so much before you like seriously wonder what this is supposed to mean for the relationship. Because at that point, you cannot also really claim anymore that this is about what Han said it was about. Like, if they just never fix things, well, no, then something else is the issue, or they just wrote it in a shit way and tried to tell you that no, this is still the only thing that matters here. Well, this has been like taken care of for a while now. So
because as we have it right here, where they basically had a fight, then they split off to go do different things. Han was doing stuff with the Rin, and then Leia was doing stuff with refugees, and then they had the occasional talk here and there, and then then they get to hear where Jaden is like, just end it already. Fix it.
Exactly. And Han promised himself to do the thing with the Rin. That was what his mind was set towards, and he did that successfully. And now it's like, okay, he's still helping them here within the refugee camp, but the real task that he set himself is done. And Leia's just waiting at this point, like, okay, you're gonna
gotta
do
fix
something
it.
now. Yeah, exactly. Like, and yeah, she wants to as well, because no matter who is at fault for what here, no matter how independent, Leia is strongest when somebody helps her shoulder the burden that she has, and it's really nice. And it kind of also calls back to her part in the Chewbacca comic, like where she was like, I'm kind of jealous when Han gets to give others attention when I also need him. And yeah, I think that fits well here. And yeah, they start talking, and Han gets annoyed by the holonet material of Leia pretending to be buddies with, I called him Prince Cuck, it was a soldier. And oh yeah, how Center Point all went down. It's like, what do you mean, Han? I didn't understand that. Civilization won that day, so that's totally fine. You shouldn't be angry about that. And yeah, Han reminds her of how she accused him of having an affair with his past. And he points to all the people of 32 and asks whether that looks like an affair to her, which is just kind of a funny thing to say. And yeah, she immediately apologizes and talks about how hard it must have been for him. And he then says that she for sure won't be able to forget everything that happened, but he hopes that she'd be able to forgive him. And then they make up. And that was nice, yeah. That was very nice. And yeah, as it seems, the Rin will still get their fur cut, like the procedure was supposed to go, and they will be provided with warm clothing, so it doesn't matter too much. So okay, yeah, makes sense. And Jaina's pretty bitter about her injuries, both, and also Leia, because when Leia complained to her that she doesn't know how to do all work at once, Jaina tells her that she can't, because she's always trying to solve everybody's problems. But when she needed Leia, like when she herself needed her, she wasn't there. And Leia is hurt by Jaina saying this, but I feel like it's necessary for the kids to mention it because it's true. And it's good for Jaina to be the one, because Jason and Anakin kind of have their own thing going on in this book series so far, and maybe it was kind of difficult to figure out what is Jaina supposed to do. So it makes her a bit more distinct, with having her like be active in the actual military, and also her being the one to point out, yeah, you kind of have this like helper syndrome where you feel like you need to fix the entire world, but we are your kids, like we should be a top priority. But whenever we need you, you're kind of just absent. And Leia isn't a mean person, like she isn't an overtly horrible person or something, but that's a pretty big deal. And
if you think about it, this fits perfectly with the Bantam era, where they do that exactly.
Exactly. It's a nice callback to the Bantam era, where they always abandon their kids for random shit. Like Leia can't read bedtime stories to her children, but she can learn Salonian. So I mean, judge that for yourself. Imagine like you're a parent, and you no, not a parent, you're a child, and you go up to your mom and like, can you read me a bedtime story? And she's like throwing you out of the room because she's trying to learn Chinese. Like, wouldn't you start questioning things at some point as you get older? Like, hey, I don't think this is how it's supposed to go. So yeah, good for Jaina to point out, like, hey, you're kind of bad parents, I have to say. Oh man. And yeah. So exactly. Yeah. She also mentions that Vicky Shesh, of course, didn't help at all. And while Leia points out she would have been able to if she wanted, I was like, okay, so I hope they kind of realized that Vicky Shesh isn't really the nicest of people. So yeah, it seems kind of the ball is rolling.
But she is hot, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, she's gotta have some personality. Makes sense. Jaina says that she doesn't care about any of that. She doesn't want to rely on Leia anymore, because she has proven that she can't do that, and she needs to survive on her own. And Leia tells her that because Leia then tells her, okay, you need to be disinfected as well, so we'll have to cut your hair. And Jaina is a bit shocked by that. Which, yeah, I mean, understandable. Yeah, they somewhat joke around a bit, like Jaina and Leia, but then Jaina mentions Jason and that she should talk to him because Vicky caused a negative reaction within him. And Leia noticed that, that while a loud supporter of Selkor and the Jedi, the number of issues have kind of steadily increased with Vicky Shesh, and that if she wanted to accuse her of something, she'd have no problem to do so. So it's like, okay, maybe we will accuse Vicky Shesh of doing something because she's obviously up to no good. But yeah, no, I like that. It was a very harsh speech by Jaina, or like little speech that she gave to Leia, being like, yeah, I don't really care about any of this now anymore. Like, I have realized I can't rely on you and I need to rely on myself to survive. And once again, I can't imagine that Leia is particularly pleased with those words, but it's what she needs to hear because it's the truth. And I mean, maybe it's too late at this point because all the kids are basically adults, but they're gonna know. Yeah. So, chapter 14. Yeah. So Droma. Oh yeah, Droma mentions the events of courtship, and Han throws synthetic stew at him and causes him to fall down from his chair, which is to me the proper representation and legacy of this book. Very good. Jason and Droma, they go back to Settlement 32 to look for the belongings of the refugees. But other bugs that live on Duro have already built their nests in their former homes. And one bug that's actually only defending its nest is one that Jason doesn't want to kill. But others get attacked by some of those bugs. And, who are not purely being defensive, but are actually just going out on the attack. And therefore, Jason goes to them and strikes them. So he's still trying to be consistent about his morality, being like, this insect here is just defending its home. I can't just walk up to it and cut it down. But these other ones, they're actually attacking somebody, even though they have no reason to. They're just being aggressive. Okay, I'm gonna kill them and defend the others instead. So makes sense, yeah. Jason fights with his lightsaber, but the bugs are actually attracted by the light that it emits, and he doesn't use the Force, obviously, so he is really not graceful in using the lightsaber and out of breath very quickly. And Droma even has to save him with a Viper Blade. He throws it away and runs the other way, but then he just takes a moment to consider whether he should resist his principles and actually use the Force again, which kind of causes him to feel like shit, or he continues to endanger others, which wouldn't be nice either. And he decided to use the Force, and he draws the lightsaber back to him with the Force, which is a good choice, of course. He still feels responsible for others, so he doesn't just want to let them die, but he has his principles, and they're now kind of clashing. And yeah, Leia asks Jason afterwards to go to Buru and try to convince the Corduro administration to give them more resources, since he's looking for more tasks that have no real Jedi focus. And yeah, they kind of misrepresent again that Leia never had time to be a Jedi, which is not true. But I guess it is true, but in exchange for stupid things that didn't matter.
It was entirely self-inflicted.
Exactly, yeah. It's like you chose to do stupid things that took away all your time that you could have invested into becoming a Jedi. So to a degree, I guess it's true. Yeah. Randa, he apparently wants to offer Jason to the Vong, but he somehow wants to orchestrate the Vong attacking the New Republic and losing to them. So he tries to do weird shit. And he has a Villip put into his room, so he makes the offer to Savong La and reports a Vong spy to Vicky Shesh. So he's trying to orchestrate a whole little conflict here. And Vicky Shesh, of course, wants to secure, like, she's not on the actual side of the New Republic, and he doesn't know that, obviously. She wants to secure a place under the Vong Order as a governor because she's sure that they will win. And for some reason, she's sure that she won't be killed. Yeah, and she once again proves how the Emperor was the most sensible and correct politician in Star Wars history, of course, and how Kuat and Coruscant will ultimately deserve the Vong treatment. Yeah. Chapter 15. Apparently, Selonians and Dral are starting to escape Corellia. So I was like, damn, this wasn't just a fake fear-mongering announcement. My boy's actually doing it. It's like he's getting everybody he doesn't like to leave, and Thraken has deserved that. Like, he did so much for the people of Corellia, he gets to decide who lives there. It's pretty fair. Yeah, Mara is she's treasuring every day without an incident regarding the baby, which is a nice touch and what Mara should have been like a long time ago, but whatever. Luke, Mara, and Anakin chose to land in Buru disguised as Cubas, since pretending to be a local is always tough to sell, so they would rather pretend to be somebody just from a different planet, which makes sense. And yeah, there are some agitators that want to separate from the New Republic and not take in any refugees. Quelle surprise that would happen, yeah. And Mara goes out on her own a bit to just find out more about what's going on, while Luke and Anakin have a meeting in their disguise. And yes, she catches herself wanting them to tell them to be careful and recognizes that she kind of has become soft in a way. And yeah, but Luke pulls her to him and tells her to come back soon. So he kind of takes that step away from her and does it himself, which is really nice. It's once again, I'm repeating myself, but it's a nice development of their relationship. Chapter 16. So Luke and Anakin in their disguise see Jason, and Luke is kind of sad to feel that, like, he feels that Jason is still cut off from the Force. And yet Jason instead, he sees an opportunity to present his vision of what a Jedi should be. And yeah, the Duras don't actually want more money or resources because they are happy to not be bound to their planet. So they don't really care about Selkot trying to re-establish the planet as being livable again. And they usually send useless people to the shitty places, and now these people are invited to their well-kept city. So they're like, well, that is not how we do things usually. And yeah, and if the planet gets turned into an actual proper planet, because of course Duro is a toxic shithole, the Vong might be attracted to actually go for it instead. And because of that, it would be Zalkor's fault. Like, if that actually happened, oh look, Duro is actually a nice planet. We gotta go there and build a new base. And they would blame Zalkor for it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's not what happens ultimately, but you kind of understand, I guess, why they would think that way. So yeah, they're like, we don't really need this place to be that great. We're fine with living in our cities. We usually send people down there because they are shit people, and we don't really need anything. But yeah, there you go. And yeah, the vice director of Corduro is uncomfortable with Jason being so pushy about his positions because, quote, Centerpoint destroyed the balance of power in the region, which sounds like someone's species isn't as based as Thraken. Sorry to tell you that, man.
It's not Thraken's fault. The New Republic used them as bait.
Exactly. And it's not Thraken's fault that he defended himself and that you people are so shit that causes a shift in the balance of the entire region. Like, it was Centerpoint was there. Like, either the imbalance was there previously or not, but yeah. And yeah, he also is uncomfortable because, quote, how young Jedi usually don't have the wisdom to keep themselves in line. Yes, he's just baiting him or expecting him to. attack him randomly or something. And the only thing that Jason thinks in response to that particular point is, quote, "Thanks, Kip Duran," which is really fun. Yeah, I can relate, Jason. What can we say? He's a character in this universe, and his legacy definitely is unique. And yeah, Jason turns the conversation that they have to the shipments about the resources that have not arrived. Yeah, so in any case, Luke gets helpful information. So he is asked what he offers in exchange for those shipments, and Jason says that he's misunderstanding. These shipments already belong to them, and the Duros like accuse him, like, "Oh, are you accusing us of stealing?" Which is like, yeah, it's a typical guy being crazy, I guess. Yeah, and then, funnily enough, even though he acts like the typical like Bantam era Star Wars alien in this scene, he actually praises the Emperor. He said, "Oh yeah, he might have gone a bit overboard with the Jedi," which I kind of start to doubt at this point. But he valued order, and the Vong wouldn't have happened under him, which is also correct, of course. And it was funny to be like, we've now reached a place with the New Republic where the aliens recognize that the Emperor like had a point. Because I wanted time to be alive, man. And
You can
JO
always join Bastion anytime you want.
exactly. Like Bastion has an open door for you and an open ATST as well. It's just like, and JO is just my type of storyline so far. Aliens recognize that the Emperor like was actually pretty good, so that's cool. And yeah, Jason tries to convince them they could pay a little bit of taxes in return. The Duros don't give a fuck about anything and don't see Jason as being in the position to have any sort of demands, which is the typical disloyal behavior that we have from them. They care about their own first, which makes sense, of course, but they also go out of their way to cause problems to the others. So yeah, I did wonder what fate lies ahead for Duro and how sad that will ultimately make me. Yeah. But yeah, Mara finds out that with the help of one of Gent's programs, Gent, he still exists too, my boy. He also has a happy
Pretty
life.
cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah, with his help, she finds out that the agitators on Duro have connections to Romamul. Therefore, they have connections to Nomenor, of course. So a bit of pattern recognition here. I like it. And Jaina finds out about Randa having a Villip in his room, which he is not hiding, and he's kind of sad about the fact that that this kind of now is revealed in a way he doesn't like. She assumes Vicky Shesh probably told the Vong already about the information that he gave her and takes the Villip with her, which is nice and pretty smart. And I was like, okay, we are now openly assuming that Vicky Shesh is a traitor. That is good. It means that our characters have brain cells. So
It's a very low bar, but it is nice to see.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta take, you gotta see everything in perspective. We're talking about Star Wars here. It's like, hey, as long as you like think, you're good to go. Actually. So, chapter 17. Mara meets up with Leia, and as a greeting, they actually like hug and they see each other as friends and as important people in their lives. It's like, I think that's like the first time in dozens of books that, or like one of the first times we had mentions of it in Vector Prime, where these two have like actual interpersonal connections. Like they actually exist within each other's worlds, which is like, yeah, she's the wife of her brother. That's kind of a big deal. But oh well. We gotta take baby steps, we get what we can. And yeah, she is there to investigate Kriar, who has connections to Romamul and therefore probably to Nomenor. And she also reunites with Jaina, who is really happy to see her. And yeah, I can also dig the like cool aunt relationship that she has going on with Jaina. Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. And yeah, that's when they find out that that Kriar, he is actually Nomenor, and he has a flasks with some. Oh god, I wrote a word down that makes no sense. I think spool. I don't know, something that spool res. Okay, so what was used to initially infect Mara Jade with her illness? And others by putting them on. Apparently, they put them on breathing masks. So, like, I think some spores, yeah. And she threatens to kill him. He says that she couldn't reach him quick enough before he could throw it at her. She's, of course, a bit worried about the things that gave her illness. I did wonder, like, so he has a flask in his hand and he threatens to throw it at her, or like at the ground or something. I'm like, if that were to happen, couldn't Mara Jade just use the force and prevent the flask from falling down, or is it like a Vong flask that can't be grabbed by the force? So I wasn't sure about how that's gonna work. So she says, "I'm just gonna walk up and fucking murder you," and he's like, "No, you can't." Like, she probably could. There's no reason why that flask would be a threat to her, but yeah, whatever. And yeah, that's that. She pretends to attack. He just turns around and runs towards the door. She smartly doesn't follow because she prioritizes her life, Jaina's life, and also, of course, Ben's life. And then she hears that an alarm goes off, so she's like, I could follow him there, but I don't know what is hidden at the place where he's running towards. I'm just going to prioritize saving us. And she knows that he wanted them to follow him, so she chose against it. It's like, if he wants us to follow him, that's probably not a good sign. I was like, it did seem the way that was described that it took him a bit until he reached the door that he was going for. So I was like, could have probably thrown your lightsaber. I don't know. There's no reason why she wouldn't try, but I guess that prioritizing their safety thing is maybe taking over here, and she doesn't think about attacking at all. Like, that could have easily been tried, I guess. Yeah, and all fears that she had of Ben now being somehow ill because of the Vong are also dispersed. She recognized that he's just a defenseless baby that needs her protection. Oh yeah, Leia apparently called that baby a skycrawler, which is very cheesy, but also kind of amusing, I guess. And yeah, that was kind of cute. And Jaina and Mara then they tried to cooperate in the Force so they can move the stones that fell around them. So they were in a cave or like in a tunnel, and the rocks fell down and tried to like almost trap them. And they tried to synergize and move them out of the way. And yeah, while also trying to protect themselves from anything other, like any other potentially harmful thing that could be in the air. So they don't know if the spores that he had with him is the only thing. So it makes sense that they're still cautious. Chapter 18. We're back with Luke now, who feels all the emotions from Mara that she's going through at the moment, and basically sends her like his love to give her power to continue. And while he realizes that she doesn't want him to, and he take too long to get to her, he knows that he'd drop everything to try and save her if he just made the decision to do so, which was a nice section. And yeah, Jason gets a visit by Luke, and Jason shares his vision, and he ponders whether the Jedi should act as if the universe is their responsibility, while Luke says that the Force is their heirloom, and not all Jedi abuse their powers, and it's their task to use these powers responsibly. And Jason also thinks that maybe his path, because of the fame that he kind of owes others, can influence other Jedi to follow him, which is something he's also willing to give his life for. Like, maybe inspiring others is what he's supposed to do. Jason feels uncomfortable with being unrestrained by anything but their own laws. It's like it can't be right for us to just do what we feel like doing. And Luke explains how he can't just stop using the Force if he doesn't want to use it aggressively, because he doesn't even know what exactly an aggressive usage of the Force means. Like, he tries to explain that he's thinking that only he is too humble to not use the Force incorrectly. Like, all the others are making a mistake. They are, I know, arrogant and think that they can use the Force in the right way, and he's the only one who made the decision, the noble decision to not do it. Can also come kind of from a place of pride. And Luke says he shouldn't sacrifice his talents to not act in the hopes that others will just adapt his way of thinking when he doesn't know whether that will happen. Especially now, since it doesn't seem like anybody's listening to Jason. So it's like, I guess your goal is kind of to inspire other people to do the same as you are doing. But you're wasting your talent, obviously. You could do much more, and it doesn't seem like anybody cares really about what you're saying. At least they're not showing it. So, yeah, makes sense for Luke to point that out. Luke thanks him for making him see that the ethics of their Force use needs to be closer evaluated, and asks what Jason's next plans are. And Jason is happy with both the praise and how seriously Luke treats him. Like, he actually treats him as a Jedi and not just as his nephew. And he also
some kid, basically. He's like
yeah,
actually thinking.
like he's an actual character, like an actual fully valued character, not a child character, that's like not as important or not as quote unquote valuable. It's like, no, okay, he gets treated as an actual serious character here
with thoughts.
It's crazy that can work, right? It's very, very strange. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, and he also tells Jason to not try and hold the world on his shoulders because it doesn't work. Like, it's not your responsibility to worry about literally everything. You can't do that. Yeah, so that was a very, very nice and good conversation between Luke and Jason. Like, it kind of gives you an update on, okay, what is their current position about the whole like philosophical conflict that they have going on in the Jedi Order. Like, what is our purpose? What are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do? And Luke doesn't give Jason any definitive orders, or he doesn't even say what he would prefer him to do. He's just like, okay, what are your next plans? All right, cool. Just don't waste your talents. Don't be that afraid. Don't be prideful in thinking that you're the only one who is making a correct decision here. And he basically lets him do his thing. Like, that was a very nice development here. And yeah, Savong La gets told by Nomenor about the supposed killing of Mara and Jaina. So Savong La thinks about how Nomenor's words mean nothing. So again, yeah, as I said before, he has a weird reputation amongst the Vong, and it's gonna be interesting to find out why he has that. Chapter 19. Jaina has some very harsh but also true words to say to Mara about Leia's motherhood so far after they escape. And Leia, while talking to Mara, doesn't even ask about Jaina. And Jaina says, quote, "Some women just shouldn't have children." That is very harsh to say about your literal own mother, but you can totally get why she would come to this conclusion at this point. She complains how there was always Winter or 3PO or Chewie to do the typical parenting tasks for her. And when Mara brings up all the important work that she had to do, Jaina counters that maybe women who are, quote, too important to raise their kids should give their children away and go back to work. Which was that was once again like just the next harsh thing, but it's so well formulated and it's very true. Like, or it's very understandable why you would think that. It's like, or she's doing all that important work. Well, okay, then give me to parents who are not too important to raise me, basically. And
Yeah, Winter and Tycho could have done it.
yeah, apparently Winter is a secret agent, like the most famous and basically the only one from the New Republic, and she had time.
Raise Leia's kids for her.
Yeah. 3PO is like, it seems basically the only protocol droid in the New Republic. He had time. Like, he had nothing to do, it seems. So, like, if they can, why couldn't Leia? She artificially decreased the time that she gets to spend her kids by the Bantam era existing. So it is what it is. And yeah, as I said, this is great stuff and a pretty solid representation of Leia's unnecessarily distant behavior as a mother. Yeah, what can we say? And yeah, with the info gathered so far now, and with what R2 found out by just checking a bunch of records, the Peace Brigade seems to be involved in Dura. That they find that out. They're probably having a base on Elysia, and the plan seems to be for the Duras to sell the refugees to the Vong for their sacrifice, and then to piss off. But the heroes assume it might just be the Duras that they will sacrifice instead, and the others that they'll make the refugees into slaves, which is kind of all what you would expect to happen from the Vong, and also kind of what the Duros would deserve by the way they have been acting in the book. So yeah. So Jason, who is in Brarun's captivity, I think Brarun was the vice director of Corduro, gets saved by a Sunesi named Gnossos. So I think that was like, I don't remember any more about this. I think that character just appeared here for the first time. It kind of got presented as a character that we will eventually learn more about, because I mean, he has a name, he has everything, but we don't know what exactly his deal is. He shows him the way to a hoverpod and also hands him a device that can drown out normal conversations with high frequency noise. So, like spy tech can't detect it or something. And something the Sunesi are capable of, apparently. And yeah, apparently saving Jason is something that his deity, whatever that is, inspired him to do. So I was like, okay, it's a mystery who this guy is and why he is here. I assume we will learn more at some later point. Yeah. Meanwhile, Luke and Anakin, they find a couple of guards, and Luke essentially just mind reads one who remembers Thrini Vey, so the Jedi that they've come here to search for. And they remember her having died a rather brutal death. It makes him solemn, but he even refuses an order by the leader of the guy to kill him. So he can punish him how he wants. He's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. You belong to this place. You will get punished according to what this place demands. And it makes sense for him to do so. They are explicitly unwelcome. It's clear that he has no more legal methods to do what he wants to do, really. So it's like, okay, that's it. Yeah. He is proud to see Anakin be, vigilant in the little skirmish that they had before, which Luke essentially solved. So the skirmish that they had by tricking the enemy into running into each other without ever like actively attacking. It's really cool, and it's kind of it's the kind of fighting that you would expect from such an advanced master like Luke. It's like he would very rarely, I think, actually draw his lightsaber and fight with it. He would usually do something with the Force to just trick the enemies, make them take each other out, or yeah. So that was a nice little fight here. And yeah, while walking away, Luke wonders how he could ever share the news with Leia if something like this happened to her kids. Thankfully, that would obviously not happen, but it makes sense for him to contemplate that, especially since he realizes that by opening the Order again, he also has now enabled much more people to fight and to die for other people's freedoms. So in a way, I guess that's the way he sees it. If these people die at some point, he's gonna have at least partial responsibility. At least that's what he thinks, because he has given them a way to become fighters by opening a Jedi Order. So it makes sense for Luke to think about. It's once again a problem that he thinks about that is like very far out there. It's like
He's given people direction.
yeah, but he's also like constantly worrying out about possible future scenarios where he could be the one responsible for people dying. Yeah, exactly. By giving people direction, which is generally, you would say, a good thing, he also enables them to possibly be killed. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, nice conflict for him here. As I said, once again, the scope of the issues Luke has to deal with always clearly showed to me that he is like the leader, he's the master, because he always thinks about the big picture, like the problems that go far beyond just himself. And it's a great way to represent that he is the leader of this whole thing without ever having to tell people that he is. Like you wouldn't necessarily have to ever say that he is the Grandmaster of the Jedi Order or whatever you want to say, like the director, the principal of the academy, whatever. It's like the way he speaks is very clear about this. Chapter 20. So yeah, since everyone with eyes in their skulls can see the writing on the wall, the heroes are now preparing an evacuation of Duro. And yeah, Luke and Mara distract the alien agitators on Duro. So Anakin and Jaina, who the Duro are less familiar with, can sneak in the prison where Jason is kept in to leave. Luke points out that while they cry about the refugees that they brought here, the agitator's brother took all the money that was given in exchange for exactly that happening, which is fair to mention. I mean, you took the money for a service that you do not want to provide. It's fair you don't want to provide it, but I mean, you still took the money. Yeah, Luke's speech doesn't seem to convince anybody, obviously. So what Anakin, going back to the previous plan, does is he starts a show battle with Luke. Since most people know who the Jedi are. They've been talked about a lot. A very small proportion of people have actually seen Jedi, not only Jedi at all, but them in action specifically. And of course, they're really impressed by it. And it's, oh yeah, I made a stupid thing where I was like, oh yeah, Anakin's going to turn to the dark side because things happen in Star by Star that we're not going to talk about now. So
that's 3 books away still.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist yet. So, they do that. So they're very impressed by it. And I guess they would also be kind of afraid because now they know, like, if you haven't seen Jedi in action, you would maybe think that, okay, they're famed, like, very good fighters, but as long as you don't know how good they actually are. So maybe you would think that you could take them on. Here it shows that they couldn't possibly. And yeah, Jaina goes to Jason, who explains to her that since he can't fight darkness with darkness, maybe he also shouldn't fight violence with violence, and that he's tired of just waiting for something to happen, which, if you were to interpret it like very negatively, is kind of what Jason has been doing. I mean, he has wondered things about himself. He was active, but yeah, more or less, like, if it's about what he has done towards others in the universe, kind of seems, yeah, he's just waiting for some magical thing to happen that will give him all the answers, which very likely will never happen at all. And yeah, Jaina's having none of it. She's threatening to stun him in case that he doesn't follow her, and he has to smile about that and joins her willingly. He does get frustrated, though. He thinks about how he is a Jedi to protect, and he's there to protect others and himself, which means he was, likely frustrated how little he did while Jaina was taking care of most people following them and running ahead of him. So not only is he not capable of protecting others while he's not actually using his potential as a Jedi, but also he himself is a liability, because if he doesn't use that skill set to be useful on the battle, then Jaina now not only has to account for herself, for her own safety, but she also has to think about Jason and protect him, which would be different, of course, if both of them were Jedi. Then that would be more intuitive, but now he's just essentially just a burden to Jaina, because she runs ahead of him because she uses the Force, so she just has to literally wait for him to come along. And of course he's frustrated about that, because like, not only can't I protect others, I can't even protect myself, really. And Mara, she is mostly just focusing on keeping her baby safe, and realizes that using the Force is still very tiring for her. She doesn't want to tell Luke, though, since she sees that he kind of enjoys the thrill of everything happening, and she wants to keep up. Again, just really nice character dynamic for the two of them. Chapter 21. Luke and Mara hide with Anakin. Anakin seems just kind of miffed, but is happy when Mara tells him to check whether the place is guarded, so he doesn't want to feel like he's a sitting duck, like he's doing nothing. Of course, he still kind of blames the whole Chewie thing on him. He wants to be in action, to feel like he's doing something, and even if it's something as minor as, hey, look around the place, see if there's anybody here, it gives him the feeling of having like an immediate purpose that he can work for. So it's nice. Mara then mentions how confusing it is to like pull themselves back and let the young people handle things for once. And you can really tell by the way that they speak about this here that this is the passing the torch story in the expanded universe. It just feels good to have that moment where you're kind of like, yeah, Luke and Mara, they've been doing this for a while at this point, at least.
They're getting old. They're having their own kids and gotta
They
move
got
on.
other things to worry about. Yeah, like they gotta. At some point, it's your last ride, and we had that with Han in, I think it was the Henothron duology already, where he's like, I'm kind of getting too old for this shit. I don't want to do this stuff anymore.
And then he was forced into another last ride in the last.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, Crucible.
That's
45 years after New Hope.
The passing the torch.
That's the final. That was the final passing of the torch. Officially, they said so until Denning's trilogy, which thankfully got cancelled.
Until most people who could grab that torch have died already, you mean?
Yes, and there are no other new young characters left.
Isn't there the character that is just like Han Solo, though?
Oh, Matt Cake, who gets introduced in Crucible, and we learn so much about his character, like that he's just like Han, because every other character tells him, "Wow, you're just like Han." He reminds me of a young Han.
One of the probably like 10 people in the expanded universe who's literally just like Han, because people like Han Solo in every era.
Very unique character.
He's just like Dash Rendar.
I would put him in my top 5 characters.
I mean,
my top 5 characters that are just like Han Solo.
Dash Rendar, Omet Cake. Who else?
Pretty sure the smuggler character from SOTOR is supposed to basically be a Han Solo ripoff as well.
Yeah, there's that. They tried making Jaina just Han.
He literally has an Iranian princess with him on his ship again.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
I hate that smuggler story so much. It's really bad.
It's kind of funny. It's one of...
You're like forced to ally with the Republic for no fucking reason.
Yeah. I mean, he just wants money, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're technically a Republic faction, so we have to tie you into the Republic, even though we wouldn't necessarily have to. Smuggler, Soldier, and Bounty Hunter. Still, those are the stories I never finished. The other ones I actually managed to all play through the end.
Those are probably the worst ones, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the most fun one was probably the Imperial Agent, because I was like,
that is the best one by far.
Yeah. There's like actual surprise in the story. We're like, oh damn, okay.
It's like actual nuance and surprise, and it's like actual story. Yes, nuance. The Jedi ones are kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, Jedi Knight is like, okay, it's like adventure, I guess. Like vague Star Wars adventure.
Jedi Knight is the one where you get a Wookiee and then a protocol droid and an astromech, right?
You have an astromech, then immediately on Coruscant you get the Padawan of another that you're just gonna fuck because that's the purpose.
Of course.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, sure, I can see that. I think, yeah. I mean, there is somebody who has a Wookiee. I know that. I guess it would be the Jedi, which is weird because the Jedi Consular, his first sidekick is a Trandoshan. So, yeah. Yeah, man, Soter, that was a thing. But yeah, lots of basically Han Solo characters in the EU, I feel like. Because I guess we need that. I don't know.
Because Smuggler with the Heart of Gold, that's so cool, right?
I mean, it is
very
cool.
unique and nuanced character.
The thing is, it is cool, but if you do it like 10 times...
Like the point is that Han is the outlier.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Not every smuggler is supposed to be a Heart of Gold. Like, most smugglers are just supposed to be assholes.
See the New Rebellion.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, those smugglers are all like, they have nothing. They have no backbone. They have no honor. They have money. That's what they are supposed to be most of the time. Oh man. But no, yeah. I mean, who would be there to get the torch passed to him? Like, how old is Valen Horn in Crucible? Like, isn't he
Valen Horn? I think I don't know. He's relatively young
as well, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Jaina is like 37.
I mean that's young,
obviously.
Relatively, but
maybe they'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
Who they'd probably make another Han Solo.
Yeah, obviously. Oh well. Yeah, so Mara is she's worried how much more they actually still have to learn. But Luke knows that he had to as well. Like, so yeah, we just need to learn more. And in the end, they just need to trust the next generation to do as they're supposed to do, which is really good. I'm sure they're not going to fuck it up. Yeah, and as Luke realizes how tired Mara is, he offers to refresh her, then immediately clarifies that he means with the Force, which is something that amuses her because the farm boy is still very innocent. And yeah, so there you go. That was kind of amusing, I guess. And yeah, the Vong, they do their attack now, and they basically overrun the city. Yeah, since both the alien leaders and the New Republic essentially abandoned the place, so there's nobody really resisting. What a surprise! Chat the 22. Yeah, so the New Republic Admiral Ed Duro, for some reason, believes that the Vong just want that planet, and then they're done. Which, yeah, that's definitely the vibe that they've been giving off so far. Yeah, so he basically sacrifices it to not provoke an attack.
This is their Czechoslovakia.
just that one little thing, guys. Or I was like, oh, or he could also just be a traitor, and he pretends to do that. But yeah. Yeah, so the New Republic Council, which is full of aliens and women, of course, just saying that has no bearing on their decision-making process. It's just a factual statement, right? And they are Weimaring to themselves and just refuse to send reinforcements because it's Weimar. And then Ken Thema just tells them that they will regret this one day, which is specifically the day that the Vong take Coruscant. I can't wait for this day. Oh, it will be glorious. It will be so nice. As we know, Weimar problems require Weimar solutions. So yeah, get your place nuked, I guess. Whatever. We'll start new. We'll get you guys out. Han and the Rin are building a tunnel to get to some ship that they know they have to evacuate. And while Leia also has to go to some cliffs to get to another ship, which could potentially evacuate 2,000 people. So we just know, okay, there is a possibility of lots of people being saved. We'll see. I assume it will be somewhat successful. And yeah, the Vong, as we learn, don't know the actual meaning of mercy, as they think it's just preventing people from encountering the destiny. So mercy, in a way, would kind of be unmerciful in their religion, I guess. And yeah, once again, I was like, I really want to see what the background for all of this beliefs are. I'll see how much we will get. I've been told multiple times that we learn nothing about the Vong in the NJO, so I expect to
literally
learn
nothing.
literally nothing.
Especially not in Force
Game
Heretic.
alone.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Another book series, another book trilogy I shouldn't look forward to. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
It's really boring, so it's bad. So
Oh man,
It does feature two of the greatest things you will ever read in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I think I remember at least one of them. Oh, I can't. It's gonna be great.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Chapter 23. So before Han and Leia depart, they kiss each other, and the kids smile. And to me, that's a sign that this is fixed now. Like, that was kind of the very obvious message. Okay, this is over. So I don't expect too many revisits to this conflict. Like, aside from mentions, like, to me, Han and Leia are together now, and the Solos are a happy family. The end.
Until Recovery comes up and it pretends this didn't happen and then does it again.
Yeah, pre-planned, guys. So yeah, Leia's plan is to use a mining laser to damage the Vong, to damage their ships. Jason accepts, like, because of his beliefs, that it's used to defend the innocents that are on Duros, so it's like okay to do that. He also adds that he understands Leia, and Jaina must think that he's crazy. What the fuck is this profile picture?
Oh, that's Stephen King promoting his first feature film, Maximum Overdrive.
Stephen King is a very strange individual, I have to say.
Yep.
Oh man. Jesus. He looks much more sentient in this picture than he does nowadays, I think. Poor guy.
This was his pure coke days.
It does look like something, yeah. Coke is probably the.
He was coked out of his mind when directing that movie.
I mean, that sounds like fun, at least. I hope he was.
It was very entertaining.
I hope he was coked out when you wrote, like, minors having a gangbang, because otherwise I would.
Oh, you're gonna like this. While you guys were talking about Balance Point, I was looking on Reddit on, like, men writing women, and there's like 500,000 posts about Stephen King.
I mean, yeah, he kind of brought it on himself.
Yeah, there's some great descriptions he has for female breasts, which I'm gonna share later.
He does sound like I mean, wouldn't you want to know what breasts look like from a man like him? I feel like that's very entertaining. Yeah, exactly. No, so back to Jason. Jason understands that Leia and Jaina must think that he's crazy, but he still wonders whether there's some diplomatic solution to all of this. He explicitly now remembers his vision of everything falling into darkness, so he's worried that him participating in that could probably cause this. And that's where Leia very grimly replies that if your diplomats are returned dead, then there is no desire for a peaceful solution, which is very understandably her position. And it's interesting also to see, because she is, at heart a diplomat, to see how much the current events have influenced her opinion about this, and be like, yeah, usually I'm the pacifist here. I'm the one who doesn't want to get innocents involved, doesn't want, unnecessary death. But, like, we sent diplomats there and they're returned as a skeleton. At this point, we've kind of tried everything that can reasonably be expected of us, which is totally fair to say. Like, yeah, at this point, you can't trust Devon because as soon as you send somebody to them, they're probably going to be returned as corpses. Yeah. And I do like that Han realizes that, since his death, he's his being Chewie's, of course, he's lost his tendency to just run headfirst into trouble, which is really good and believable development for him, because that's kind of been his thing. They're just running, like running at the stormtroopers screaming, which is actually apparently so iconic. Because we were talking about Soto, they actually redid that entire scene where Han is, running after smugglers, then sees after stormtroopers, sees a big room full of them and runs back. They actually redid that for the character trailer for the smuggler from Soto, like exactly that scene.
It all comes up so far.
Yeah. Oh man, Soto is it's my guilty pleasure, I have to say. Very strangely so.
It's a fun game, but
yeah.
Start thinking about the story, it makes zero sense.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, you couldn't even read my summary.
I mean, that's true.
I see the word vitiate, and then my eyes just melt. So.
The only thing I know about vitiate is the end boss of the Jedi Knight. That's all I know. That's as far as I ever went. Oh man, the Sith Warrior storyline was very funny to me and a friend of mine, because Darth Barras, who's like this fat guy who's your master, for some reason he was just such a big meme for us, because he's like with a strange mask and he's so unbelievably fat, but he's like a Sith Lord that you need to fear. It's so funny. You can't take it seriously. Like, also the conversations.
One of the really annoying things in the Sith Lord and the Sith Inquisitor playthroughs is that you always have to put on a mask, so you couldn't actually see your face.
Yeah, like, you can disable that, but I think that's a privilege that you need to pay money for the subscription, or at least there's like an
can't run without a subscription. Remember that?
Yeah, there's like an in-between status. If you purchase something in Sota but you don't have an active subscription, then you're like at an elevated status. That's what I had, because I like bought a little thingy at some point, and that's
if you spent a little bit of money, you had an elevated.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if I think the mask, like, put the mask away feature, but still have it as a
the buffs.
Give it the stats. I think that was actually a subscription thing. Very shit. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But no, it's good that Han now is like, I can't just do things the same anymore as I used to do them, because it used to work, but now I see that it isn't as easy anymore, and he's kind of afraid of it. That's very believable.
Afraid of getting old, like Harrison Ford himself.
Very understandable. Who wouldn't be? Chapter 24. So Leia has a plan to first use the Force and bury some Vong beneath machines that they have, to give the refugees who are about to be sacrificed or enslaved, we don't know, an ability to escape. She wants Jason's help, and he says he can't, since this is exactly the moment where he's afraid of misstepping and causing the universe to drift into a wrong direction. Jaina yells at him to help or get out of the way, and even calls him a deserter. Like, you're actively refusing to do your duty. You're kind of nothing else but a deserter. Which is once again, like, very hard to say, but Jaina, like, now in this book, Jaina had a lot of scenes where she's the one to tell you the tough love, but it's really kind of right what she's telling you. And yeah, he counters that the Nokri, for instance, also don't use the Force, but they aren't deserters. They are doing the job. It's kind of understandable from both. He's like, just because I'm not using the Force doesn't mean that I'm refusing to do anything. And Jaina is ultimately one that does what Jason was supposed to do. And yeah, before they go to the mining laser that they wanted, Leia tells them where to escape to, since they are now the new generation of Jedi that she places her open, and they are very important, kind of expecting herself to maybe die. It was a very wholesome thing from Leia to say. It's like, what could possibly go wrong, right? Anakin, Jaina, Jason, the new generation of Jedi. I see a bright future for the Jedi Order. And yeah, Leia gets taken hostage and tries to speak to the War Master to get through to him. The Vong seem to believe that their deities maimed themselves to create the world, which is probably why they imitate this maiming process, and that death is meaningless without life. They can only worship, they can only worship their imaginary gods while they're alive, which is something they don't seem to appreciate. That's kind of what Leia also counters to them. It's clear that they don't really give a fuck what Leia has to say, but it's interesting to have like now people from the outside of the Vong perspective actually interact with their belief system and be like, wait, okay, you guys worship death more or less, but what does death mean if you have no life? And you can only worship your gods if you're alive. Like when you're dead, you're dead. So that's it then. It's too late for worship afterwards. So, but yeah, in this case, they don't really give a fuck. I wonder if it's gonna at some point change something, like when you're like if you're actually gonna have people from the Star Wars galaxy basically interact with Vong about their belief system and maybe like change a Vong's mind about it. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know if it's gonna happen, if it's even important enough to happen, but I could imagine it in some way, maybe in a minor story happening. So I'll see. And yeah, Jaina feels in the Force, when Leia gets attacked and wants to return. Jason sends her to leave and go back to Han instead, and he is the one who himself returns to help Leia, which is pretty neat. And I was like, I expect some cool moment that's gonna happen. Chapter 25. So yeah, Leia is taken prisoner, like right with Randa as well. He tells her that if he didn't do anything, he tells her he didn't do anything. She of course doesn't believe him, which makes sense. And I like that Leia, being the one to kill Jabba, still influences how other Hutts perceive her, which seems to be the reason why he's afraid of her. Like specifically, she's the one that killed Jabba, so I guess Hutts aren't particularly used to just being killed by others. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that still influences Leia. And yes, she gets livid and seriously wants to hurt Randa when she finds out that he wanted to sell Jason to the Vong, which obviously makes sense as well. And yeah, Luke feels that she's calling out for him, which she doesn't do towards her kids. Like she only does it towards Luke because she told them to leave and she doesn't want to endanger them. And yeah, while Luke would like to help Leia, he also has a feeling that this is not the time for him to step in, because he feels something will happen with Jason where he will either succeed in what he's about to do or fall entirely. And yeah, Leia meanwhile gets a Mon Calamari Morse code sent to her, apparently by Jaina, through a cable shaft, which is really cool. It's like, oh yeah, secret ways to communicate. That's also a thing that exists and that never really gets brought up a lot.
They should have used the Thul version of it, because they got the best communications, as we know.
Exactly, it's like an actual system. It's so cool. Crazy how like communication can work if there's a system behind it. Strange. Yeah, and so what Leia does back is she describes that the War Master wants to destroy the orbital cities of Duros. So that's what she tells back to Jaina. She also told that the Duros sold out to the Peace Brigade because this is Weimar. Jaina reports all this back to Mora, who is currently with Admiral Woot, and he decides to try and break the armistice without the traitors who have infiltrated all of their leadership, because it's Weimar, to save more people. So it's like, okay, I know that our leaders are compromised. We're kind of fucked, but I will just do my own thing instead. I will, break the rules, which is cool. And Mara was also told by Leia to target Gateway, so the War Master can either be arrested or killed. And yeah, meanwhile, Anakin is in his X-Wing, using it to accelerate an empty freighter with an intact reactor and yeet it into Or-Om, so Or-Om being the gigantic Vong monster that was attacking the Duro orbital cities. So he hopes to blow it up. Chapter 26. Jason briefly thinks about charging out and killing all the Vong like Kip Duran would do, but then decides against that and imagines only using the lightsaber when necessary, like Luke would. It's like, yeah, good, Jason. Don't be like Kip. We don't want you to be like Kip. The Vong do more sacrificing shit. I always call it pre-Conquistador America's shit because, yeah, it's just human sacrifices. And yeah, Randa, in a valiant last stand, actually tries to help Leia and begs for forgiveness as he's dying. So there you go. He's gone now as well. And yeah, Jason moves around without the Force. So, and as the Vong are about to do some violent shit to Leia, he reconnects with the Force again. Ultimately, he realized before that he can't just stay in the center with inaction, as that won't actually change anything. Like if he wants to change something, he needs to be active. There's no way around that. And now he saw that he can't find this darkness without the light of the Force, and also that darkness is something that actually needs to be fought. Like it's inherently good to fight darkness, which is really good. Chapter 27. So Luke, of course, makes sure that his wife has only the best. So he needed a second lock to the Jade Shadow, which can only be opened by a Jedi. It's like, awesome. Hey, we can, ships can have locks, so they just don't get stolen for no reason. It's crazy. And yeah, then she just kicks away some aliens and leaves. So that was just funny to me. Yeah, and Jason, now giving himself back to the Force, he kind of describes how he feels truly at home, which is a great touch. He taunts his enemies and then starts to create basically like a tornado, a vortex of objects around him and Leia. He even yeets like Leia's table into the War Master, which crushes his armor and pushes him out of the window. And the other Vong are disturbed by the sight, like especially how he just threw out the War Master, which is really satisfying to read. And yeah, Jason utilizes the Vong animals that are restricting Leia to stop her bleeding and escapes with Jaina as the building is ordered to be flooded by Savong La and Numenor, and then they ultimately get saved by Han. Chapter 28. So the people from Corduro are now massively joining the Vong. What a surprise. Mara agrees with me in that they deserve what's ultimately going to come for them, which is also correct. Leia, even though Jaina points out that Jason did the hard stuff, thanks Jaina, since she did something harder, because she was mad at her, yet came back anyway. Like she kind of swallowed down her pride and her anger in the moment to be like, it's not important that we fought basically right before this. Now I need to help my mother, and that's just it. That was very nice that Jaina got this explicit recognition here. So they evacuate Duro. All but one orbital city is destroyed. Jason feels good that he managed to open himself to the Force so much that he became what he calls a living sacrifice. And then he thinks about Luke and how maybe he did indeed pick up the lightsaber from his vision. So then whatever that ultimately is going to mean. Linking back to his earlier vision of him not being able to do so, which was very good. And then we have the epilogue. Savong La's foot hurts a lot from what Jason did to him, who he now has to admit is a worthy opponent. The alien traitors, they have nothing to say as they now realize they're like, oh wait, the Vong don't care about us. That's very sad and very not predictable before, but okay. And yeah, Nomenor has now, quote, fulfilled his repentance, whatever that means, and he gets a new task. And then Savonlas sends out a message to the Weimar Republic, telling them that they will not move further past Duro. They will actually remain on Duro if they actually sacrifice all the Jedi to them, and especially Jason.
I think he seems like a reasonable guy. I'm sure he's gonna follow through on that.
I'm sure if he gets Jason, he's done, and he's like, okay, we'll go home again, because that's obviously what would happen, right?
Yeah, it's only like half the galaxy right here, right? So,
I mean, yeah, it's like one half. Who cares? And yeah, that's it. That was Balance Point. I have to say it was pretty great. As I said, I think this one's a bit better than Vector Prime, but to me it was both below Stacky's and also Lucino's duologies. I just liked them more. So I was like, at the point I said like somewhere around 8 to 8.5 out of 10. I guess you could say that like action-wise, or like, actually with, how would you say, big developments maybe, not a whole lot happened in this book, which is definitely fair to say. I mean, it was definitely slower paced than the book.
Which isn't it's not inherently a bad thing.
No, it doesn't have to be. And it's kind of to be expected that you can't just have 19 books about constant like action moving forward. It's like having the occasional book in between where it slows down a bit and you get to explore other stuff. Makes sense. I think this was done pretty well here. So maybe like an 8 out of 10. I think that's relatively fair. I don't know. Somewhere around that, I think, is actually where I'm going to put it. I don't have a lot of criticisms about this book, I would say. Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about it, like as an out of 10 ratings, but that's me.
I think I have it as a 7.5.
Yeah.
Basically on par with Vector Prime, I think. Which is fine. I mean,
yeah.
Nothing wrong there.
No, it's perfectly valid, yeah. But yeah, no, that's it. Balance Point was pretty nice, I have to say. And yeah, that's all I have to say really for now. I don't know when we will do the next stream about Conquest. I still obviously haven't finished reading Conquest. I'm not particularly far into it. I will definitely get more time towards the end of the year because everything is going to slow down a bit. I'm going to go on holiday and we'll have time, so that's going to be cool.
What really matters is we're not dead and we're still going. It's just
exactly, we're still alive.
We're updating the people.
And Conquest is going to become your favorite.
Yeah,
I hope so. I mean, I've heard that a lot now, so the bar is high, but I'm confident that it will be met. Yeah. So now we'll see. We'll try to get this stream in November. I think I will actually try to, because there's going to be Christmas Land too, so I'll probably be a bit silent then as well. And yeah, we will do that, I think, in November. Yeah, at least I'll try to. So yeah, no, that's all there is from me. If you've listened for this long, I thank you a lot, and goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.